"I can communicate in 9 different languages," declared the man without a home. The wealthy Arab businessman burst into laughter, though shock flickered across his features. "Ha! 9 languages, you say?" His words echoed strangely beneath the bright neon illumination of the coffee shop sign where their paths had crossed. Kevin stood there barefoot, his clothing torn and weathered, while his faithful companion Buddy, a loyal dog, remained pressed close to his side. He delivered his statement with remarkable composure, as casually as one might comment on the day's weather. The millionaire, Sheikh Omar, had stopped only because his chauffeur had accidentally dropped a wallet from the vehicle and Kevin had retrieved it. Rather than asking for spare change, this homeless individual had simply returned the lost item. Amused by this turn of events, the sheikh decided to put him to the test. 9 languages, truly? Then demonstrate this claim. Kevin simply gave a quiet nod in response. The street buzzed with the typical energy of Friday evening. Automobile horns blared, street vendors called out their wares, and pedestrians hurried past carrying bags filled with their dinner purchases. Kevin remained motionless amid this chaos, appearing completely out of place with his lengthy beard, matted hair, and garments dampened from the light rain that had fallen earlier. Buddy's tail wagged gently, detecting the tension in the air, but sensing no malice. Sheikh Omar, elegantly dressed in tailored white robes, casually leaned against his gleaming black luxury vehicle, wearing a skeptical smile. "Very well, then," Omar stated in English, his accent pronounced yet refined. "Speak something in French." Without a moment's hesitation, Kevin began speaking in smooth, elegant French, offering compliments about the sheikh's attire. Omar's eyes widened before he laughed even more heartily. "Pure coincidence," he dismissed. "Now try Spanish," Omar challenged, his voice now carrying genuine curiosity. Kevin's pronunciation flowed effortlessly, the words cascading like a gentle stream. "Street life teaches countless lessons, sir, some more precious than precious metals," he said. Omar's driver scowled, recognizing the accent as absolutely authentic. Kevin transitioned seamlessly through languages, Italian, Portuguese, then Mandarin. With each demonstration, his voice maintained confidence, natural rhythm, and a fluency that couldn't possibly be fabricated. Passers-by began to slow their pace, listening in amazement to this man who appeared not to have eaten in days, yet spoke with the sophistication of an academic. Buddy barked once, his tail thumping against Kevin's ragged pants, as if celebrating each linguistic performance. Omar's amusement gradually dissolved into stunned silence. The sheikh folded his arms, his gaze becoming more intense. "Arabic, then. Let's see if you can deceive me in my native tongue." Kevin's smile was barely perceptible as he began to speak. His words were deliberate, classical, colored with regional dialects Omar hadn't encountered in many years. He recited a traditional saying about welcoming strangers, the kind elderly women would share in desert encampments. Omar's mouth parted slightly, recognition softening his expression. For an instant, the bustling street disappeared, leaving only Kevin's voice filling the space. "Where did you acquire this knowledge?" Omar inquired, his tone almost stern. Kevin lifted his shoulders in a shrug. "From everywhere. Discarded books, overheard conversations, public libraries that didn't question visitors. When you're trying to stay alive, you learn to pay attention." Omar gestured for his driver to move away. The entertainment was gone, replaced by genuine fascination. 9 languages, he whispered. "You weren't fabricating." Kevin shook his head. What purpose would lying serve? Falsehoods waste energy, and energy keeps you breathing. Buddy pressed against him once more, his bright eyes reflecting his master's tranquility. Omar studied Kevin carefully. This individual, in tattered clothing, who possessed such refined speech, and pondered how fate could abandon such an intellect to city sidewalks. "You could be employed by diplomatic missions or universities," Omar observed. Kevin released a bitter chuckle. "Doors remain closed to men who carry the scent of back alleys. They only open for those who possess the keys." The sheikh felt the sharp truth of those words. He indicated his car with a gesture. "Join me for a meal. My invitation. You and your companion." Kevin paused, uncertain. Countless nights on the streets had taught him that invitations often conceal dangers, but Buddy nudged his leg as if to suggest, "Have faith, just this once." Kevin nodded slowly. "Agreed. But he eats before I do," he said, indicating the mutt. Omar's smile was faint, charmed by such devotion. "Certainly." They entered the vehicle, the luxurious leather feeling almost too comfortable beneath Kevin's frame, while Buddy curled up at his feet. For the first time in years, Kevin found himself surrounded by walls that weren't made of concrete. They arrived at an intimate restaurant, its lighting creating warmth against the cool evening air. The staff froze when the sheikh entered, then looked twice at the disheveled man accompanying him. Omar requested a private dining room. Soon, dishes arrived, platters of lamb, rice, and bread aromatic with spices. Kevin reached down first, filling a bowl for Buddy and watching the dog eat with pure joy. Only after this did he begin to eat himself. Omar observed this quietly, feeling respect growing within him. Between bites, Omar posed questions. "Tell me your story, Kevin. How did you end up here, living like this?" Kevin chewed thoughtfully, his gaze distant. Life fell apart. Employment disappeared, family was lost, but languages remained with me. "Languages," Omar repeated contemplatively. "Why so many?" Kevin's smile was subtle. "Every language represents a doorway. When the world closes one, another becomes available. On the streets, listening is survival. A traveler needs directions, a merchant curses in local dialect, an abandoned book shares stories. You gather it all. 9 doorways kept me alive." Omar leaned closer. "Do you know why I stopped tonight? Not merely because of the wallet. I have negotiations tomorrow. Representatives from Europe, Asia, even Latin America will be there. Each guards their language fiercely. My advisors are concerned I'll be outnumbered." Kevin tilted his head, interest awakening. Omar lowered his voice. "A single translation error could cost millions. One wrong word, an unintended insult, a lost contract. Yet here you are, a man carrying 9 keys in his speech." Kevin chuckled. "And no shelter above my head." Omar's expression grew gentler. "Perhaps that situation can be altered." Kevin examined him carefully, measuring his sincerity. Buddy raised his head from the empty bowl, licking his lips, his tail moving gently. The room's quiet became profound, not oppressive, but filled with potential. "Tomorrow," Omar announced, "you'll accompany me. Sit quietly, observe. When necessary, speak. If you succeed, your entire life might transform forever." Kevin hesitated. The streets had brought him many promises, coins that never materialized, jobs that vanished, kindness that turned cruel. "Why choose me?" he finally asked. Omar smiled slightly. "Because liars beg for money, you returned a wallet untouched. Because fools boast without evidence, you spoke 9 truths in 9 languages. And because loyalty is uncommon, I witnessed it when you fed your dog first." Kevin's throat constricted, unaccustomed to hearing his value acknowledged. Buddy barked once, as if confirming the agreement. Kevin nodded. "Then I'll come, not seeking wealth, but because doorways are meant to be opened." The evening deepened. Kevin and Buddy were provided accommodations at the Sheikh's hotel, a soft bed and clean water feeling like miracles. Kevin lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the city's sounds muffled by curtains. Buddy snored peacefully at his feet. Kevin reflected on alleyways, shelters, hunger, and how rapidly fate had shifted. Tomorrow held risks, but also an opportunity, not just to be noticed, but to have significance. 9 languages, he whispered into the darkness. Perhaps they're worth more than mere survival. Buddy stirred, pressing against his leg, reminding him that whatever came next, they would confront it together. Dawn arrived with golden light streaming across glass towers. Kevin dressed in clothing provided by the Sheikh's staff, simple but clean. He barely recognized his reflection, though his eyes still carried the weight of street life. Buddy wagged his tail at the sight of food delivered to the room, devouring it with delight. Omar arrived shortly after, his robes immaculate, his smile measured. "Prepared?" he asked. Kevin nodded. As ready as I can be. They departed together, heading toward the conference hall where marble floors gleamed and voices in numerous accents already resonated. Kevin's heart raced. 9 doorways awaited. He was about to knock. The hall was enormous, filled with men in business suits and women in positions of power, each protecting their territory with languan, like shields. Omar introduced Kevin simply as an observer, earning confused glances. Kevin remained silent, with Buddy safely secured in a side room with food and water. Hours passed with presentations and negotiations tied up like drums. Then, at a critical moment, a European delegate leaned forward, his words sharp in French. The translator stumbled, missing the subtlety. Kevin cleared his throat softly and spoke the exact phrase with clarity, preventing Omar from a catastrophic misunderstanding. Heads turned, silence fell, then murmurs began. Omar concealed a smile, masking triumph as formality. The discussions continued, shifting from Spanish to Mandarin to Portuguese, and each time Kevin's quiet voice bridged gaps where the translators faltered. By the third correction, eyes widened with recognition. By the fifth, respect settled upon him like a crown. The man who had seemed unworthy of notice had become the room's compass. Omar leaned back, satisfied. Kevin sat upright, heart pounding but steady. He wasn't merely surviving anymore. He was influencing outcomes. Buddy wasn't present to witness it, but Kevin knew his dog would understand this was loyalty, returned in a different form. By evening, the negotiations concluded with signatures, smiles, and handshakes. Contracts worth billions were secured. Omar clasped Kevin's shoulder firmly. "You didn't just translate words," he said. "You translated trust." Kevin shook his head. "I simply spoke the truth." Omar's eyes gleamed. "And that, my friend, is invaluable." Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, questions flying. Omar shielded Kevin from the chaos, guiding him out quietly. "Tonight," Omar said, "we celebrate. But more importantly, we determine your future." Kevin glanced at the busy street, still half-doubting. Buddy's joyful bark greeted him at the hotel entrance, grounding him in the only truth that mattered. Kevin crouched, embracing Buddy tightly. "We accomplished it, boy," he whispered. The dog licked his face, tail marking time like a metronome of joy. Omar watched, his expression unreadable yet warm. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "your life begins anew." Kevin didn't respond immediately. He pressed his forehead to Buddy's, feeling the heartbeat of the one who never abandoned him. 9 languages had preserved a sheik's fortune, but loyalty, unwavering, wordless loyalty, was what truly made him wealthy. For the first time in years, Kevin dared to envision a tomorrow not on the streets, but standing tall with his dog and his dignity intact. The following morning felt surreal. Kevin awoke in the hotel room, not to traffic sounds and rustling plastic bags, but to silence broken only by Buddy's gentle snoring. Sunlight streamed through heavy curtains, warming his face. For years, every morning had meant survival, finding food, searching for safe corners. But today was different. When he looked in the mirror, dressed in clean clothes provided by Omar's staff, he still saw the weary eyes of a man who had weathered storms. Yet behind them was something new, possibility. Buddy barked, tail wagging frantically, as if sensing the shift in destiny. Sheikh Omar greeted him downstairs, surrounded by assistants. Yet Kevin noticed how the powerful man turned toward him with genuine warmth. "Today," Omar said, "we discuss what you desire, not just what I require." Kevin frowned. No one had ever asked him that. Survival didn't allow space for desires, only necessities. "A roof," Kevin said finally. "Work that allows me to stand with dignity. And food for him," he added, nodding toward Buddy. Omar chuckled softly. "Simple and honest, but I believe the world can offer you more. You provided me with more than any translator ever has." Later that day, Omar arranged a private meeting in one of the skyscrapers overlooking the city. Kevin entered nervously, Buddy close by his side. Executives in tailored suits whispered as he walked past, puzzles, and at the sight of a barefoot man in borrowed clothes and his dog entering the boardroom. Omar silenced them with a look. "This man preserved your contracts yesterday," Omar said firmly. "Show him respect." Kevin swallowed hard, unaccustomed to being defended by anyone, let alone a sheikh. Buddy sat proudly at his feet, ears alert, as if he too understood the significance. The executives began discussing future negotiations, deals with Europe, Asia, Latin America. Omar interrupted. "Kevin will oversee translations personally. His instincts capture what machines and men overlook." Shocked murmurs filled the room. Kevin raised his hands nervously. "I'm no businessman, just a man who pays attention." Omar smiled. "And that's precisely why you're needed. Businessmen chase profits. Listeners build trust." Kevin considered this, then nodded. He had always listened to whispers of danger in alleyways, to strangers' conversations in unknown languages, to Buddy's soft whines of warning. Perhaps listening wasn't just survival. Perhaps it was a gift awaiting recognition. That evening, Omar invited Kevin to dine with his family. For the first time in decades, Kevin sat at a table where laughter outnumbered silence. His beard remained wild, his hair still tangled, but no one mocked him. Children asked questions about Buddy, who absorbed the affection like a sponge. Omar's eldest son asked, "How many languages does your dog speak?" Kevin chuckled. "One. Loyalty." The family laughed, but Omar's gaze lingered with quiet pride. Kevin realized then that respect wasn't about wealth or titles, it was about being seen as equal. And tonight, he was. Weeks passed, and Kevin traveled with Omar to conferences across the city. Each time, Buddy accompanied them, tail wagging as if he were part of the delegation. Kevin corrected mistranslations, smoothed cultural tensions, and with each success earned glances not of pity but admiration. Slowly, he adapted to hotel rooms, regular meals, and clean clothes. Yet every night before closing his eyes, he whispered to Buddy, "We don't forget. Streets made us strong." Buddy would rest his head on Kevin's chest as if agreeing. Comfort was welcome, but humility was armor. Kevin refused to let comfort erase memory. One afternoon, while walking through a crowded market, Kevin overheard tourist couples arguing with a vendor. Their English was broken, his Arabic confused. Kevin stepped forward, translated calmly, and resolved the dispute with ease. The tourists thanked him warmly, slipping coins into his hand. Kevin shook his head, giving the money to the vendor instead. "Respect is worth more than coins," he said. The tourists smiled, understanding. Omar, who had been observing quietly, nodded. "That is why I trust you," Omar said. "Not because you speak 9 languages, but because you speak the language of integrity." Despite progress, doubt often crept in. Kevin sometimes woke in panic, expecting the ceiling to vanish into sky, expecting hunger to gnaw his belly. He worried that one mistake would send him back to the alleys. Omar noticed his unease and spoke one night over tea. "The past is not a chain," Omar said gently. "It is a foundation. You built resilience. That resilience is why you stand here now." Kevin nodded slowly. Buddy pressed against his leg, warm and steady. In the dog's eyes, there was no doubt, no past, no future, only the present, which was enough. Opportunities expanded. Soon, international delegations requested Kevin directly, astonished at his ability to bridge words and intentions. Articles appeared in local papers. From streets to summit, the homeless translator who changed deals. Kevin cringed at the headlines, embarrassed by the attention, but Omar reminded him, "Your story isn't shame, it's power. People need to see what resilience can become." Kevin agreed reluctantly. He didn't want fame, he only wanted stability, food for Buddy, and purpose for himself. But if his story inspired others lost in alleys, perhaps it was worth the discomfort. Buddy barked once as if approving. Months later, Omar invited Kevin back to the same street where they first met. The neon cafe sign still flickered, the sidewalk still wet with rain. "Do you remember?" Omar asked. Kevin nodded, smiling faintly. "You laughed at me." Omar laughed again. "Yes, but you taught me humility. Riches blind men, but you showed me wealth hidden in rags." Kevin looked around at the city rushing past. He thought of the countless nights he had felt invisible, the countless people who walked by without stopping. And he realized that the moment Omar stopped had been a miracle disguised as chance. As the year turned, Kevin moved into a modest apartment, paid for with his new salary. It wasn't grand, but it was his. Buddy claimed the couch immediately, tail wagging as if he owned the place. Kevin stocked cupboards with food, something he once thought impossible. Yet he never put the old jacket away. He kept it hanging near the door, a reminder of who he had been. When Omar visited, Kevin laughed. "It still smells like rain." Omar smiled. "Then never wash it. Let it remind you of the night doors opened." Kevin agreed. Some scars are worth keeping. One night, while walking Buddy, Kevin encountered a homeless boy curled under a bridge. The sight pierced him, an echo of himself years ago. He crouched down, offering half a sandwich and gentle words. The boy looked up, eyes wide. "Why?" he asked. Kevin smiled softly. "Because someone stopped for me once. Now I stop for you." The boy's gratitude lit the dark corner. Kevin walked away with Buddy, heart heavy, yet hopeful. He understood now that survival wasn't the end of his story. Giving back was. And Buddy, loyal as always, wagged his tail, sharing the mission. Omar later established a foundation in Kevin's name, focused on education and language learning for disadvantaged youth. Kevin resisted at first, uncomfortable with his name in lights, but Omar insisted, "Your journey is proof that talent lives everywhere, even in alleys. We cannot waste it." Kevin eventually agreed, realizing it wasn't about him, it was about others finding their voices. At the opening ceremony, Kevin spoke simply. "I was invisible. Languages made me seen, but loyalty, what my dog taught me, kept me alive. I hope this foundation helps others find not just words, but worth." Applause thundered. Buddy barked proudly. Years passed, but Kevin never lost his humility. He continued to travel with Omar, continued to teach, and continued to return to the same streets with food and blankets for those still fighting to survive. People whispered his story, sometimes exaggerated, sometimes trimmed, but always with awe. From rags to respect, from alleys to embassies, he had walked a road no one believed possible. Yet whenever asked about his greatest treasure, Kevin always answered the same. "Not 9 languages, not money, not fame. My treasure is Buddy. He stayed when the world left, and that kind of loyalty is priceless." On the anniversary of their first meeting, Omar, Kevin and Buddy sat outside the cafe again, sipping tea together. Rain fell lightly, as if the night itself wanted to honor their story. Omar lifted his cup. "To 9 languages," he toasted. Kevin smiled. "And to one truth." Omar tilted his head curious. "Which is?" Kevin scratched Buddy's ears. "That love and loyalty need no translation." Buddy barked once, sealing the toast. The three of them laughed, their voices mingling with the city's hum. And for the first time in Kevin's life, he didn't just belong, he was home.